All right. A false sense of security. The very last detail that Oliver Berg may recall is diving deep into a previously generated Tempest threshold of his own design. It was from that brave leap of faith that Oliver became swept up with the violent turbulence of the Tempest storm. In total and complete utter darkness, Oliver felt his corpus dash and puncture itself against the various sharp rock formations of the byway. Despite having a slight orientation of the cavern's twisting paths, Oliver's corpus is only capable of handling so much physical madness before it succumbs to what is called a destruction harrowing. Although this would normally involve his body disintegrating on the spot and in the pitfalls of the labyrinth opening up wide to receive his spirit, Oliver can only focus his mind on the almost eternal vacuum that pulls him down, lower into the ruthless corridors of the labyrinth itself. While descending in this utmost darkness, Oliver is able to hear the excruciating sounds of the damned and the anguished screaming to him for the release of death, begging him for mercy against their pain, crying out for suicide to be an option in whatever hellhole they have been ensnared within. When all of Oliver's hope for finality has become lost to the everlasting abyss surrounding his soul, he will eventually exit into what seems to be an antechamber, located at the very bottom of a major Colosseum pit. There are eventually visible stairs in which you may attempt to ascend and crawl your way out of this condemned location. But you get two impressions that prickle inside your wits, although they may be very limited insights. One, because you cannot see an endpoint or exit from this gigantic Colosseum, it's fair to estimate that such an elongated journey on foot would take days, if not weeks, to accomplish through rock climbing and jumping across treacherous crevices. And your willpower can only muster so much dilapidation before you become an empty, apathetic shell with no rejuvenation in sight. 2. There is a reason and purpose at this very marble tattered pit that you linger within. You aren't sure what that intent may be due to a lack of reliable clues, but you anticipate that you may find such ill-meant designs by exploring the whereabouts from which you have stumbled across. So now I'm going to move us to the area. And Rob, you should see yourself at the very bottom on the south.
Yep.
Cool. This accursed place that you stand upon is adorned with strong marble plates that act as its floor tiles. Directly in front of your vision is what seems to be an ancient rock garden, laced delicately with small pebbles resembling a decoration of Zen energy. There are 3 unruly boulders located at various points of the stone garden, each carved purposely with counterclockwise spirals upon the minerals' surfaces. You can smell the putrid essence of sulfur and rotting flesh down in this unearthly pit. The sounds of the dead and damned continue to resonate upon your ears, although they seem barely distant sounds thanks to the massive openness surrounding this makeshift coliseum that you reside in. Currently, there appears to be 3 withered husks located in 3 spots of the antechamber. And if you would like to, you may approach any of these lifeless carapaces and examine them more closely. So, what would you like to do, Rob?
Well, I don't think I want to go in the rock garden yet, because I'm assuming walking across that would require me to screw up all these raking and shit they do to it. Is that correct?
You get a sense that if you set foot on it, it will disturb the rocks themselves, yes.
Okay, so then I will do that last, because
Okay.
that seems like a closest thing to a transgression. So I'm going to take a closer look at the Moss Man over here.
Certainly. While you're walking over to that husk of sorts, I need you to give me a perception. And you don't have any awareness, so just your perception. So 4d10, please. Nice. 4 successes. So let me reveal what you see in front of you right now. This is a carcass in constant decay. There are mysterious spores rupturing through the upper body cavity, the neck and head. Lengthily rusted copper nails driven into its crown, palms, and feet. Within its feeble grasp lies 2 singular skulls, with almost cloud-like flames erupting from the scalps. One thing that you do notice, Rob, as you are examining this entity is there's no longer that voice in your head that has helpful commentary. Your shadow has gone silent for the first time in your afterlife, and you're not sure what that means. Is there anything you would like to do as you examine this husk, Rob?
Is it moving, or does it appear to be responsive at all, or is it just that, a corpse?
It appears to be quite still and just a corpse.
I don't want to touch it yet, especially because of the spores. How big is it? Like, are those skulls it's holding human-sized, or are they tiny skulls?
They are human-sized skulls.
So it's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to leave that for now, and I'm going to approach the guy on the other side.
Okay. As you walk away, a strange form will walk out of the husk itself and approach you. And I lost my NPC, so I'm going to have to move the icon. There we go. So, before you is a well-kempt older man with graying sideburns, a soft collared turtleneck, then layered with a neo-Victorian stylized coat with straps and buckles. He has a gentleman's brown eyes, dark brown hair, and stands almost 6 feet tall in front of you. As he walks in front of you, Rob, he will look to you, graciously extend a hand to you and say, "And thus guilt, repentance, mourning, and every pain of the soul of all kind were visibly and tangibly manifested, everywhere and in all of us, sometimes in the form of blessing and grace, sometimes in the form of punishment and corruption. That divine will, equally pious with cruel, which we could not and never be able to unravel, is called the Void. Welcome, young man, to the well of that very void. The others should soon follow, given time." Is there anything you'd like to say or do?
Well, I mean, that's a strange greeting. Who might you be?
My name is Skelder Cryas. Skelder Cryas. And I am here for you, Oliver Berg. Welcome.
Are you here for me?
I have a specific purpose, unlike my companions who will be joining us soon, but I specifically am here to test you.
Test.
Yes.
Okay. Quite a leap.
Yeah, and he just kind of stares at you with a very matter-of-factly looking expression, as if he's done this many, many times before, and you are not the first.
So how is this test going to work?
Well, once all three of us have manifested, you will get to make a choice. You will get to choose the way in which we break you, Oliver Berg. If you choose my route and wish to come with me, I will break you of your aptitude. And he says this with much sincerity. He's not, joking around with you or playing a prank. He's very sincere.
Sorry, one sec.
No worries.
What aptitude?
Your aptitude.
My aptitude for what?
You are... how to say this? Very good with your five senses. Very extrasensory, as it were. We've also noticed that you have a very profound diplomacy that you use within your group. Although not entirely an intimidating person. When you walk the streets and are able to talk to the right people, you are quite good at getting information, too. This is your aptitude, Mr. Berg. And it is that I must break down into smaller pieces for you. So, Rob, if you you don't need to roll for this, but you kind of get a sense of what he's talking about. He is involved with your talents under your abilities. Okay. Behind you, as he is speaking to you, you'll hear a flustering sound occur. And a young lady will walk out of the husk that is over there. This other husk, or body, is a cadaver wrapped up in wooden strips bound together like a nightmarish, mummified body. Strongly forged chains stranded on the form, disallowing it from moving anywhere or doing anything for itself. And strangely yet, there appears to be an excruciating, burning fire within the entangled body itself, being tortured without being allowed to move or protest. And a young lady, as I said, will walk out. She will immediately notice you and Skelter and walk towards you. Very, very slowly and calmly. Nothing threatening.
Hello.
Before you is a young woman wearing only a loose cloak around her shoulders that bears a Persian design. She is also adorned with a lightly gold hat, decorative waist buckle, and a loosely worn sarong. She has deep, dark, azure-colored eyes, light, dirty blonde hair, and has an almost unhealthy and unnatural body frame. Her gaze exudes malcontent, as if she could melt away your corpus with a single thought. She'll look to you after you've greeted her. From a place of blessings have I been entrusted with watching over you, Sallow One. Thus, it has been arranged by Oblivion itself. My name is Priya Iowa. I have been granted a gift with which I can assist you in carrying your burden if required, but only if you can make that choice. So I will activate her on roll 20 for you, Rob. So this is Priya. And although she sounds a little bit more interested in helping you, you can't help but feel like this very primal distrust come from your body.
So what burden are you talking about?
Oh. Your competence, young man. I am here to relieve you of your competence.
And what does that mean?
You are quite admirably a great leader within your circle, as I've noticed. You make very bold decisions and are very capable with those hands of yours. And she kind of like reaches down to touch your hands, which gives you a very kind of disgusted feeling in your soul. And she kind of reaches down and goes, But despite that, I think we need to level that out a little bit more. So come with me, Oliver, and we'll fix you right up.
So that's your gift?
Many might see it as a gift.
Why would I see it as a gift?
I am relieving you of a burden, Oliver. You should be gracious.
How is that a burden?
You... And she kind of examines every single molecule of your corpus. You haven't long left, young man. And in due time, you will return here. But you will be emptier than once before. I just want you to have a chance at, well, redemption. Out there, in the Shadowlands, before time runs out. As you were having this conversation with Priya, one more individual will step out of the husk, the north. So let me activate that one. Up north, there is a female form that appears to be seated, completely wrapped and covered in black covers and blankets. Gives you a sense of deep mourning, sadness, or regret. The body is absolutely quiet, hunched over as if attempting to vomit all of the anguish being held inside its mouth and throat. And then, the individual that I mentioned earlier walks out from the husk, causing it to disintegrate into a bleak dust, similar to a dusty, moth-ridden cloth being pulled away and unceremoniously dropped. Before you is a looming figure, standing almost 16 feet tall in front of you. He wears an almost ethereal, smoke-ridden hood and garb around his frame. He has 8 long arms, 4 of them holding onto some sharp-looking daggers, and a tall, serrated club. He does not speak to you, but only growls deeply, snarling all his aggression toward your direction.
And he doesn't move?
He eventually starts walking towards you very slowly.
Does it disturb the rocks?
It does. Yep.
Okay. I'll turn to Skelder and say, who is this?
Oh. That, my friend, is the misery. He will test you and break you of your competence. Your competence is already lacking thereof. You are very, very observant and are able to make your way through many of the earthly systems that exist. You're able to understand how these systems work to your advantage and the advantage of others. And you have a decent way of getting paperwork through to change the lives of others. Although this is part of your mortal life, it is strangely held on tightly as you wander here as well. Whatever is left of that, and there's very little left of that, my friend the misery will relieve you of. So, at this point, he will gesture to his colleagues, and each of them will make their way across the Zen garden, and they will sit themselves on a rock and just kind of like patiently sit there. They do disturb the pebbles, creating small waves as they walk. They make their way into the stone garden. They sit on the boulders and they observe you, studying your every action with patience and determining how much total time it would require to completely break you. They await your approach, and you are allowed to engage with them as you see fit. But once you have interacted with the character that you see fits, you are choosing how you wish to be broken. So, as I mentioned earlier, Rob, this associates to your talents, your skills, and your knowledges as a character. And depending on which one you choose, will decide what happens to your character at the end of it.
So basically my options are one of these three, or you mentioned something about a path that's so long there's no way I could go down it anyway.
Correct.
Okay. And I can't speak to them now, or I'll be choosing.
Nope, you can speak to them right now.
Okay, well then I'll say to them, can I go, without approaching each of them, can I ask them in turn, why should I choose you?
Okay.
So I'll start with Priya. And if I ask them directly, that doesn't mean I've locked myself into choosing them, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't mean that.
It does not mean that you are choosing them.
Okay, well then I will. I'll ask.
Okay.
I'll ask Priya, why should I choose you?
Well, there are certain family members that I believe you haven't seen in a while, Mr. Berg. And I'm sure that you'll probably want to see them before, well, anything horrible happens. You seem like a family man. At least that was the indication that I got from your wife and your child. So, if you join me, you might actually get a chance to see their faces again. Wouldn't that be nice?
Why would breaking me of the burden of my competence help me see my family?
The goal is to let go of things, to unburden yourself, to rid yourself of these attachments and thoughts and memories. That way you're able to really focus on the bigger picture at hand. You can be very resourceful when you're focused on the right things, Mr. Berg. And it'll be my job to help you with that focus. So, will you take my hand? And she reaches out her hand towards you.
I won't yet. I will turn to Skelder and say, why should I pick you?
Well, Mr. Berg, I've dealt with your kind before. You are, well, you're a very skillful man. I love the way that you work with your circle. I admire the way that you are able to get information so easily. It's almost like people trust you the moment that they walk into your presence. And I dare say that you are slowing down what is meant to be a more post-haste process for yourself. You can't hear the voice of your shadow, yes? If you join me, I can reunite you with your shadow again. And the two of you can discuss what you'd like to do in this labyrinth that you are stuck within. Wouldn't it be nice to have another voice that isn't just the three of us, but to have your shadow speaking with you once again? Give it some consideration, Mr. Berg.
Okay, I have a question. Is there some kind of roll I can make maybe to determine this? Is he saying? I feel like is he offering where when I go through? I assume there's probably some sort of puzzle to follow this.
Possibly, yes.
Is he saying this would give me my shadow as access if I pick him?
Yes.
So if I pick him, I get the shadow for help in the next puzzle.
Yes.
If I pick her, it has. I don't understand how my family could help me, other than I'd be driven forward by the motivation of them. I don't know like how that would apply. Is there anything? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's mostly your goal was to seek out your family and find them.
Uh-huh.
So to hear someone say you could see your family again is motivation in itself, if that is still your drive.
I mean, yes, but I don't know. Like I said, you said I don't really trust this person.
Right. Exactly.
And also, given what had happened, meeting my family again could also mean I want to. That they could be in oblivion or gone after what happened to California, and it could be her way of saying, "I will make you gone quicker too."
It's possible.
Okay. I'm gonna turn to the misery, and say, why should I pick you, even though I don't expect much from this.
Okay. Yeah, I'll activate him on roll 20 for everybody. He just looks at you with his cloaked face and growls, but nothing of much of a response. He's very just kind of quiet. Stares at you.
Oh, this I had it. I thought I knew what I was gonna pick, but now I'm not so sure. I at this point I'm not picking. I'm probably not gonna pick Priya. That's out.
Okay.
So I'm torn between the misery and Gelder, but I don't really have an inclination of what the misery could offer me.
Right.
And do I really have assurances that I'm actually going to be reunited with a shadow with my genuine shadow, or could this just be a lie of this harrowing tricking me?
You have no idea.
But so what? I don't understand the sense I have that I trust him. Like, I just feel that way.
It depends on what your gut feeling is telling you is the most appropriate. So if you follow your gut, you most likely will enter something that they had described to you, but you just met these people for the first time, so you don't know if they're lying to you or if they are setting you up for something Larger? You don't know.
So
But
basically,
they have given you the sense of what they wish to deprive you of if you wish to take their trial.
so just to make sure I clearly understand what you're saying,
Mhm.
how you describe these people to me is how is my gut feelings on them. So upon seeing Priya, I had this gut feeling that she's just not trustworthy.
Okay.
All right, is that what you're saying based on the descriptions you gave me at the beginning of this scene?
Certainly.
Sorry, you broke up. What'd you say?
I said certainly.
So then my gut feeling on this guy, even though it's not necessarily true, is that he seems trustworthy.
Okay.
What is my gut feeling about the misery?
He seems like a very dangerous person, very secretive, very ominous, keeps to himself. It may be the fact that you have nothing to offer him, that he has nothing to offer you as well.
I think I understand this now. The gift is kind of based on how much I stand to lose here.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of bargaining. Okay. Sorry, I'm taking a long time, but I'm thinking this through.
It's okay.
If I go with him, I don't lose as much because I don't have as much to give, but he's likely not going to offer me any real assistance in the battle to come.
Correct.
Or battle, whatever it is to come.
Correct.
So that also explains why I probably trust keep wanting to call that guy Stannis. That makes it tough. So I can get through this harrowing by picking any one of these three. It's going to be a lot harder depending on who I pick.
Seems that way.
Oh.
So Priya will look over to Oliver and say, "Have you made your decision yet?"
I didn't see what that said.
Shadow is reaching beyond the void to speak to you.
I mean, okay. There's two reasons I can't go with Priya. Number one, I don't trust her. And number two, I greatly value my ability to. It sounds like her taking away my burden sounds like by taking away my leadership and that kind of stuff. It's taking away the connections I have with the group, kind of. Which doesn't sound good to me. So that's a no-go.
Okay.
I wouldn't care about losing bureaucracy as much. The only reason I know about bureaucracies is because I hate them. But I get nothing out of that. It's like me giving up something I don't really want anyway.
Right.
I I'm not even sure. Is it even worth trying to read Skelder, or is this just one of those worlds where I'm seeing it is what I see? So there really isn't any way to read his demeanor if he might be lying or not.
It is what you see. Unfortunately, there's no real way of telling like what his intentions are.
Okay.
If anything, he was the one who was probably the most forthright with you. You know.
I agree. He stands to gain a lot. So
this is true.
But I do think, as much as those skills are useful, I think that's the best one to do. I think I was going to do the misery, but you changed my mind completely when you said he doesn't care because you have nothing much to offer.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will approach Skelder.
Okay. He will look to you, and you'll see a very wry smile across his face. 1 second, I just need to...
It's like you now have no talents.
Young one, standing here agape, I have been inconvenienced with the bitter assignment of watching your destruction. However, in the end, it is you who will choose this destruction for yourself. So, shall we make our way? And he outstretches his hand towards you.
I'll take his hand.
Okay. Once your selection has been made, Skelter will kind of place his hand, holding your hand in one hand. He places the other hand on top of your forehead and kind of grips very, very tightly. And as he does this, he'll open his eyes and look at you with strong intent, and you will start to sink into the ground below you, very alike to quicksand. The last thing that you see are the faces of these 3 entities staring blankly at you as you descend deeper into the Earth's crust, being surrounded by complete, dark emptiness, which seems to last a matter of minutes, just like closing your eyes as tightly as you can, until you start to see just a blur of meaningless colors. Opening your eyes, however, changes the environment completely. Let me move us over to the scene. This briefing is classified. Ladies and gentlemen, our head of operations will now speak. Your vision begins to make manifest the room that you are sitting inside. Beneath you is a very familiar feeling office chair. The kind you would have to sit in for hours to inspect construction contracts, draw out blueprints, and negotiate sublet financing. The individual who spoke out loud was a very young-looking office worker. She has bright, stylized red hair, comfortable, formal attire, and a bright complexion. So this character up here to the north. You do not recognize her whatsoever. Sitting directly to your left, so right here, appears to be a rather business first type of man. So
Wait,
business.
Oh,
The man, yeah, to your left, right here. So, business first type of man, whose demeanor seems interested in starting an argument before it has even begun. This man is the head of operations who was alluded to earlier. He is very interested in getting this meeting done and over with as soon as humanly possible. And then further along to the left, so over here, Rob, to the most south point. Further along stands a very sophisticated man in his younger 40s. He seems to be taking down the minutes of the meeting that are taking place. He is tall, dark hair, very formal suit, and a very cold expression. He says nothing, and does not wish nor expect others to say anything to him in return. The rest of the meeting participants seem very important to Oliver. They appear to be alternative, almost darker forms of his circle mates, including, I'll go to the screen, Arwen, Josie, Bronson, and a man who looks very identical to yourself, albeit with some feature differences, such as completely blank white eyes, horns upon his head, and pointed ears. If you would like to do an intelligence roll, Rob, you may do so.
I mean, I guess I will, but I'm gonna say this is probably my shadow.
Yeah, you don't need to roll then.
Okay.
That is your shadow. All along the necks of your circle mates, you can see Stygian steel collars. And attached to these collars are Stygian steel chains that seem to be attached far into the ceilings of the room. You are not able to determine what they are attached to exactly, but the chains jingle and sway with every movement that your circle mates seem to make. In front of you is a very large wooden table with a strangely intricate design all across its surface, resembling a vast labyrinth of sorts. The head of operations, so if you're watching the screen, Rob, the head of operations here will begin to speak to everyone at the meeting. As you were. To break this information down succinctly, Oliver Berg has roughly 15 minutes to decide the fate of both his circle, sitting with us right now, and also the fate of his once living family. For full details, I'm turning this briefing over to the corporation's special aide. And he will gesture his right hand over to the young lady up north.
Okay.
The young-looking office worker at the end of the table will clear her throat and nod to everyone. Good morning. 2 hours ago, a solicitor by the name of Oliver Berg was monitored as he leapt into an uncontrollable Nile and was ripped apart inside the byway. We believe his destruction was caused by the sharp rocks and unavoidable stalactites. The Wraith's decimation means we are able to determine proper reconstruction to his psyche, proper expenses, and immediate action to be implemented. I take it everyone has had time to consider the data I prepared ahead of time, and the two gentlemen that I mentioned earlier, Rob, will nod their heads as they kind of like look through a file that's in front of them. Mm-hmm. The other two office workers at the table will take a moment to open these vanilla folders at their side and examine the paperwork clipped inside. The head of operations will nod approvingly, as if trying to hurry the process along faster. Due to Oliver Berg's enormous leadership motivations, the Circle's current economy does not have the resources with which to combat his sudden disappearance. I hereby propose an open dialogue with Oliver Berg and his true shadow. We shall commence negotiations at once. Bronson will arrogantly interrupt the meeting. Negotiations for what? The young-looking office worker will roll her eyes in disbelief, but answer accordingly. The dismantling of Oliver's talents within his psyche's present existence. and gradually ending his unremitting hostility towards the afterlife. Surrendering to oblivion as everyone inevitably does when they realize that all attempts are futile. He may no longer afford these perilous exchanges in the underworld. So we will now determine what Oliver is willing to sacrifice in order to return to his fetters. So you're basically nail and hammering at his psyche until he decides to finally give in? I think you've drastically underestimated his perseverance. Although I admit, it would be terribly entertaining to see how much Oblivion can rip apart from him until he quits. Are you a quitter, Oliver? Bronson says to you, Rob.
I don't think so. No.
The young office worker pretends to ignore this banter and continues the meeting. Well, I'm sure that our exploration and experimentation will be unaffected by perseverance. I must protest, the head of operations interrupts. To credit Oliver Berg of any sort of merit is to glorify his ability to commit suicide on command. Have you not seen how he martyrs himself like the next Joan of Arc? It's pathetic. Next thing you know, psyche trash such as he will cause ripples in our union magistration. If we dismantle his circle mates piece by piece, we may be able to break down his reasoning for behaving the way that he does while under duress.
Sorry, which person said that?
This would be the head of operations, so the man who is standing directly to your left. This guy.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. Throwing his life away the way that he does. Once we can place a foothold in this psychological wiring and reasoning, we may find the catalyst towards increased growth toward oblivion. If even harrowings of destruction nature. We would have all Wraithdom down on their knees. Then we'll be in a far better position to discuss the preliminary outlines drawn by Seth. The special aide, character up north, will extend a hand towards Oliver's shadow. That would be you, Alex. Do you have any comments on any of this? She asks.
Do I have any more context into what's going on than Oliver does at this point? And I guess also, do I have the context of what happened before this scene? Or
Bronson made Oliver made a decision that has thrown him into a destruction harrowing. You are centimeters away from reaching oblivion at this point in time. You are centimeters away from your goal as a shadow.
out of character, I would have gone with the misery. In character, look, he is self-destructive in the most amusing ways possible, and frankly, I've been enjoying the hell out of it.
Mm.
That said, I'm kind of fine with you taking whatever you want from him because, well, it's what I've been doing, and it's been hilarious.
Bronson will slam one of his fists on the table in front of everyone. Can we just get to the point, please? I could be out in the Shadowlands, sniping Legionnaires with my M95 back at home. The head of operations will nod his head in agreement. Then let us get to the olive branch portion of this meeting. Oliver Berg will be given the choice between what we define as a, and he does with his fingers the quotations, family structure. See attachment B for more details. The choice factors involved being his family who perished in the sinking of California. I've marked that down under the Archangelic agenda. Or his present circle. We are extending full diplomatic courtesy in his ability to make a sound decision in these matters. Your contemporaries have personally vouched for your social reputation. Says Bronson. I was the one who personally vouched for him. Guy can take a licking and keep on ticking. Bronson spouts proudly to everyone, relaxing both of his hands behind his head, despite the tightness of his chains. The head of operations will place his formal suitcase on the table and start putting paperwork inside of it before latching it back up again. If there's no further business, then I wish you and your psyche Godspeed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I remind you that this meeting is classified. And with that, he and the transcriber, to his left, will stand up from their seats and make their way out from the office itself, leaving only the corporation's special aide, the lady in the north, behind, examining Oliver and giving very little attention towards anyone else in the room. She will pull out what appears to be a clipboard and a number 2 pencil, jotting down some notes on the fly. All right, Mr. Berg. Let's not burn any more dusk light than we really need to. Our contractor is willing to allow you the decision between saving your Montana hometown family or saving the unlives of your recently formed circle, as you can see here at the table. The choice is ultimately yours to make in the end. You have some time to convene with your better half right here across the table, but I must caution you not to try our patience or resist through stalling tactics. Our labyrinth has the tendency to cause spectral madness in its victims in a matter of minutes. Please do not underestimate such powers. Not that we have any complaints to adding another cog in the Oblivion machine all around us, but given your self-destructive mannerisms, we want to see you conduct more damage out there before destructing completely. So take some time. I'll get us some coffee, and we'll get you to sign some final paperwork. Sound good? All right. And without hesitating for a second, she makes her way to the north to start a brew for you and your shadow. So, whoop. There we go. So, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Do I really believe that they can save my family?
What do you think?
I don't know. Like, how much do I really know about what's going on right now? Like, do I think a destruction, harrowing, like, is offering me real things, or do I think this is like some sort of metaphorical struggle within my soul kind of thing?
It is a metaphorical struggle within your soul, but right now you can't tell like what is real, what is fake. It all feels real right now.
Okay.
Like the stakes are real right now to you.
Then I'll turn to my shadow and say, "Well, what do you have to say? Why? What are you expecting to get out of this?"
Well, I see it as a win-win, frankly. You got yourself deuced, which is, again, hilarious. Look, I'm not going to pretend that I want to go back into, what we've been doing, but it's not the worst possible outcome. As for your choice in the matter, really, what more do you owe those folk? They'll like kind of gesture to the rest of the circle. You've already given so much. You literally re-died, re-undied. you took one for the team already, in addition to everything else that you've given. Frankly, you're the only one who's going to be able to get them out of this situation. You're also the only one that can save your family. And isn't that what your whole thing has been about? Isn't that why you've been putting up with Bronson?
Bronson will look to Oliver and say, "Hey, I thought we were family to you, Oliver. What the fuck?"
Okay, extended family, whatever.
I've given you a lot, I think, before this happened to me. And in a way, this harrowing has stolen from you what you were already about to achieve. And as you say, what we're doing out in the world is hilarious. So, given the way things are going, regardless of whether I stay here or leave, it gives you more of an opportunity to do what it is you need to do rather than simply ending things now.
I mean, ultimately, what I need to do is ending things. So this is really sort of a lose-lose with a positive outcome on a twist on top, either way.
If I lose here, then you just have me. But if I lose on the outside, you can affect so many more people. Is that not true?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's entirely the case. And no matter what we do, I'm going to continue giving you the same quality, loving advice that I've been giving you all along. It's just a matter of whether you want to do it with those people or, your actual family.
Nicole or Jay, do you have anything to say on these matters?
Not really so much say, but I kind of want to pull out my weapon because I do have that shadow relic and start poking him with it because I am sitting right next to him.
Yeah. So Oliver, Arwen will pull out. Remind me what the weapon was again, Jay? Is it a?
It is a Stygian steel halberd.
Halberd.
Fantastic.
So out of nowhere, Dogma style, she will just kind of rip into the fabric of reality and pull out a halberd, and she'll start. I'm sorry.
I said I'm gonna revolutionary girl Utna pull it out of my chest.
And she will start poking you with it as if to kind of insist that you make your decision a little bit faster and hurry up. Bronson looks over to Oliver and says dude, this is so cool. I've always wanted to check out the Labyrinth, so I mean, choose your family, man. If you choose your family, that means that we get to spend more time here, explore, and kick some ass. He seems to be enjoying himself.
Okay, so I guess the only person who hasn't talking. What does Arwen think?
You mean Josie?
No, you said Josie already pulled out a halberd and is poking.
No, that was Arwen. Arwen did that.
Okay, I got it backwards. Yeah, then in that case, what does Josie think?
I mean, if your goal is to see your family, shouldn't you go see your family?
Turn to the shadow. Can they really?
Shadow will
bring me to my family?
Unless this is me out of character because I genuinely don't know the answer. Unless the Almighty wants to give me a flash of divine insight into the matter, your shadow will just kind of shrug and be like, "Beats the hell out of me," and they'll just kind of gesture around and not entirely figuratively speaking, but no, I genuinely don't know.
The office worker will come back and say, "I see that there is some questioning, Oliver, about your family. Did you want to walk with me really quick?"
Okay, is there Okay, is there some kind of like roll I can make to determine it? If I choose to walk with her, am I making an irrevocable choice, or am I acquiring more information?
You're acquiring more information, as you call it.
Okay, well then in that case, yes, I will go with her.
Okay. She heads up north. She will show you to some windows that are located near her desk. And the windows, you appear to be on a maybe like the third or fourth floor of this giant building or warehouse of sorts. And the moment that she shows you outside of this window, you see the inside of this warehouse that they have on the inside. And outside this window, you see what appears to be a giant creature. Very unpleasant, almost rotting, but strangely ethereal and disgusting, an abomination of sorts. And it looks hungry. And all that you can see in this moment down in the warehouse is your wife and your child being held in front of this creature. The creature looks insatiably hungry, like it wants to eat them up immediately. But your wife and your child are being held back by an individual, a dark form of sorts. And yeah, they just seem to be standing there, awaiting to be fed to this creature. And she looks at you, the office worker, and says, like, just so we know where we stand. You seem to be having trouble making your decision. Anyway, I made his coffee. And she goes back to the table. Pours a cup of coffee for you and your shadow. And herself.
Shadow's gonna take the cup of coffee and, kind of do like almost the wine tasting thing of like swirling it under his nose and pretentiously taking a sip and saying, it's also possible that this is all some grand scheme to see what you really value most, and then based on your decision, they'll do the opposite, or in fact, maybe just take from you altogether because you didn't choose altruistically. Although altruism is sort of what got you here, but perhaps the altruism is also why you get a second chance at this.
The office worker.
Next coffee, thank you.
No, you're welcome. The office worker will tap the paperwork that's below her and say, like, that's why we have paperwork, to make things official. So once Oliver Berg signs this paperwork on who he wishes to save, his family out there or his family in here, it'll be official, and that'll be his decision to make. And she just kind of smiles at Josie and Arwen. I mean, this is your family, right, Oliver? Or do you not consider them such?
I don't trust the gifts you offer. You've done nothing but play me wrong since I got here. I know what you represent, and I know I would like nothing more than to save my family, but I believe whatever happened in California, this is not the way to do that. And while I can choose my family here, I would be choosing my family over so many other families that can be destroyed by the things that have been going on. I mean, so many families have been lost over what happened in California and by these conspiracies. And the longer I am alive, the longer I have to get revenge and liberate the Shadowlands and make sure that this doesn't happen to any other families. So I choose the group I have now because they are my family, and they can help me make sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else.
So you are well and good with sacrificing your family to Seth.
Who is Seth? I'm out of character.
You might have heard the name, but you don't have the occult to back it up. But you swear you probably heard the name in religious studies.
I don't. Oh, sorry. Can you go back to what she said? She said, "So you want to sacrifice your family to Seth?"
So you are well and good with sacrificing your family to Seth.
I believe if you are showing me my family here, they are already gone, or you're lying to me, and the Oblivion does not give back. So do your sacrifice, or whatever you see fit. I don't believe in you.
Pity. Then she stands up, smiles, and walks over to the glass windows, taps on the window, gives a thumbs up. And Rob, you will hear the sound of your wife and your child screaming in agony as they are fed to this creature and ripped apart. You will see blood splatter against the windows themselves as if they have been monstrously destroyed and ravaged. And the office worker just ignores this and sits down in her seat as if nothing has ever happened.
Ooh, that's
I
gonna
hold
leave a
my
mark.
head and sort of sob silently as this is going on. Even though I don't believe this is real, there's still that inkling of doubt, and there's also just the fact that just seeing this is distressing no matter what.
Yeah. And she will pull out some paper and just start signing it. And she will basically throw the dossier over to Oliver. You are not able to read or understand the language that was written on this paperwork, but you do see a line at the bottom of it where it says Oliver Berg and signature. Do you wish to sign it?
What's the point of signing it at this point? The decision's already been made.
He's like, it gets you out of here. And it officiates this was your decision. That this is what you wanted.
The decision's been made regardless. I'm not playing by your rules anymore. You made the decision. My name on a piece of paper doesn't mean anything anymore. And then I'm just going to get up and start leaving.
Okay. And then she just throws the paperwork over to your shadow and says, would you kindly do the service of your other half?
I mean, the shadow will kind of take the papers and make, a thoroughly pretentious examination of them, looking at them from different angles back and like checking the side, holding it up to the light and being like,
yeah.
Judging by all of that blood, yeah, I'll go ahead and sign.
Okay.
That was a lot of blood. Did you see how much blood that was to my psyche?
Rob, I need you to roll.
Sorry, I just read.
What's that? Can I have you roll 9d10 for me? Difficulty 6.
Assuming no exploding 10s, I got 6 successes.
Okay. And then next I need Alex to roll for me. Alex, I believe, I'm going to double check, but I believe it's going to be 8d10 for you.
Okie dokie.
Difficulty, let me check. Yep, 8d10. Difficulty is going to be a 5.
I'm assuming I cannot explode 10s.
You cannot explode 10s, but...
Then that would be 4 successes? 5 successes.
5 successes? And Rob had 6? Rob had 6, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Rob, what happens is you, after seeing the smearing of your family against the window and seeing and hearing the cries that they have given out, and just kind of dismissing the office workers' deal and walking out. The moment you take a step towards the exit and kind of like open up the door and walk out, you are covered in a white, pale, blinding light. And there is somewhat of a burning sensation that seems to be taking place in your mind. You are starting to manifest yourself once again outside of the labyrinth. And when you do this, there's something different about you. There's something wrong about you. And this is where you will gain something called second guessing. Second guessing is all of your talent dice rolls will now be set at an automatic difficulty of 7.
Okay.
You can still spend 1 willpower before or after your dice rolls in this manner. But at the same time, as you are kind of remembering who you are and what you used to be good at, the things that you've done for your circle, some things are drastically different than they used to be. And you will find that some of your skills, or I'm sorry, some of your abilities have changed and made their way elsewhere than you're comfortable with. You're not as diplomatic as you used to be. You're not as streetwise as you used to be. Your alertness has dampened. And granted, this does go elsewhere. But from this point onward, until you find a way to remove this psychosis that has embedded itself in you, you can't help but feel that you will never be the same again.
So this is somewhat fixable, the whole 7 difficulty thing.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a derangement of some sort. I got it.
It is, yes. And when you emerge, and I don't have an image for this, but Rob, I need you to roll 4d10 for me.
Difficulty 6 or 7?
Difficulty 6.
1 success, assuming 1s cancel out.
Yeah. Okay. So, Rob, you will open the door as you were before, and as I said, you were swept up in a white light. As you exit this office building where the meeting had taken place, you will step outside a very familiar-looking building. And you look up, and it is dusk again. And you look around, and you see the constant decay of life around you. You see the existence of the living slowly depreciating over time. You're in the Shadowlands again. But where are you? And you look around, hoping to find some familiar looking spots and locations. And you realize that you're in Washington State. You're outside of a very familiar building of yours. And out of game, this is one of your feathers.
Figured.
And you take a moment to kind of realize everything that has just happened to you in that moment. However brief it may have been, you don't quite seem like the same person that you were when you first entered. And off in the distance, you'll hear the sound of a very familiar Midnight Express train pulling into a station. So, thus ends our destruction harrowing.
So fast.
Yeah, doesn't take too long. Just conclude here.